story.
Was there ever a United States president who used humor more effectively or more often? There was one time his attempt to get laughs failed. Until now, you never knew about that time. Happened during a closing cabinet meeting, September 22, when the president was running an idea up the flagpole to see if anybody would salute. The commander-in-chief just started reading out of an old humorous book called A High-Handed Outrage in Utica. He read an entire chapter, in fact. It was a story about wax figurines representing the Last Supper. It had struck the president as funny. He thought it would break the ice. He was wrong. Cabinet members sat through the reading silent, bewildered. The story was laden with clumsy dialect. It was scarcely relevant to any issue before the nation. Or if it were relevant, the point was impossibly obscure. Well, having bombed, the president proceeded to explain why he had called the meeting. Upcoming speech, a controversial subject. The president declared he had proof that what he had to say reflected God's divine will. The cabinet remained seated in stony, uncomfortable silence while the president test-marketed his new concept. More silence. Finally, the blank astonishment was broken by one of the cabinet members who reminded the president that Congress had already dealt with that same issue months previous. "We're not even sure it's legal," he said. The Secretary of State interrupted. "This was the worst possible time for such a speech," he insisted. "It made the government sound desperate, grasping at straws." The Postmaster General pounded his fist on the table, saying that the next election would be lost in the wake of such words. It's not recalled if anybody made the key point regarding the president's proposed speech. The key point, for the time being at least, was that it would change absolutely nothing. Well, in any case, the president welcomed suggestions, or at least he said he did. A flood of same forth came. 3 months would pass before the president got up the nerve to go public. The speech would be read before the Congress. But first, on the following New Year's Day, a copy in print form was signed by the president himself. And the signature, by the way, bore the president's full name. I don't mean merely his first initial and last name, as had been customary. He wrote out his full name, and the reason, he said, was that he believed history would remember him for this act alone. Well, history has remembered him for more than that. Indeed, almost forgotten is the considerable opposition he encountered, even among his most loyal and most trusted advisors, when he proposed New Year's Day, 1863. When he proposed the so-called Emancipation Proclamation. A proclamation which had no direct effect on the uncivil war. A proclamation which in fact freed not one solitary slave. It was a war measure, Lincoln called it. After the war, the courts could overturn it, he said. Of course, you know they did not. Only now you know the rest of the story.